And we're out. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
everybody.
Hey, woo!
Hi, good
Woo!
evening.
Welcome to Chopsticks Alley Talk After Dark. So,
Ooh.
tonight's episode is going to be a little bit juicy, a little bit sassy. My name is Trami Crone, and I'll be your host tonight. And of course, we have our wonderful Tassi Alabastro, who will
Hello,
be
hello.
doing all of our production and making us look good. If it looks bad, it's not my fault, it's his fault. But tonight we have a super special show for you because we have invited Miss Juicy Lou of Juicy Thought to join us tonight. Hi.
Yay!
Juicy.
Hi! Thank you so much for having me.
Of
And I
course.
love my juicy thoughts. Thank you.
Well, we are excited to have you and your crew and your team of ladies join us tonight to make the show really fun and exciting. So we have some background music here that we're going to have to mute. This is what makes the show real. We also want to say
Yep.
hello to our creative TV, Create TV audience who are watching us live on TV. If you guys want to join us, go to twitch.tv/Chopsticks Alley and you can chat with us. We would love that. All right, so let me introduce Juicy Lou. She is a drag entertainment activist living in San Francisco. She found her voice as an activist when she became Miss GAPA in 2016, and GAPA stands for Gay Asian Pacific Alliance. She is excited to join forces with Chopsticks Alley tonight to produce this show, Queer and Trans Southeast Asian Artists Event. Juicy has a long history of producing large-scale events such as Enter the Rooster, New Year, New Tricks, When Pigs Fly Over the Moon, and Leaping Rats, Hidden Histories. Oh my goodness. I want to hear more about that. So she also launched her podcast called Juicy Thots, which is what, we're doing tonight, except it's live in person in 2020, so this year. Transforming her monthly drag show of the same name from the Lookout Bar in the Castro to iTunes and Spotify. So it's juicythoughts.com.
Yeah.
And Juicy is actually the alter ego of Michael Wing, a patent attorney who specializes in computer and software-based inventions. Look at that.
I know. I'm everywhere you want to be and everything. Yes.
Yes.
You're looking fabulous tonight, Juicy. My
Why, thank
goodness.
you. I call this my signature look of big blonde hair. The higher the hair, the closer to Jesus. Because I'm from Texas. Yes.
I also appreciated that you shared with the audience when you applied your makeup today. So some of our Facebook friends got to see you.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. We made
wow.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I decided to go Facebook Live just because, when you're in the mood, you're in the mood.
that's right.
It is.
So tell us more. I mean, take over. This is like, the Juicy Thoughts Takeover show here.
Yes, well, thank you again for having me on Chopsticks Alley and giving me the opportunity to sort of showcase queer and trans performers, queer and trans Southeast Asians, drag performers, film producer. That's what we have tonight. And there's so much more. And I hope this will just be the start. And also, and I'm using my Vietnamese language skills.
She said, "How are you?" Right?
That's how are you? Yeah, I'm really bad at Vietnamese. I honestly know more Spanish than Vietnamese, and that's on me. And I'm trying to get better. But I'm
It's
thinking I'm
okay.
gonna do more things like Chopsticks Alley, like having Juicy Thoughts here on Chopsticks Alley to really explore and showcase so much talent here in the queer and trans Southeast Asian community. So thank you for having
That's
me.
amazing. Thank you. So we really want to focus on coming out story today. I'm curious to see how you, as a patent attorney, come out to your family. I mean, when did you do it? How did you do it? And how did they react?
Yeah, well, actually, I wasn't always a patent attorney, but I have always been a gay Asian. I identify as gay, and so I came out to myself way back in like around high school, but really wasn't, was still pretty closeted up until college. I came out in college around my sophomore year, but still was really closeted to my family. And so it was only until I graduated college, I moved out to California. I lived for about a year. I could just figure out on my own. I could be on myself, self-sufficient. I was like, okay, I'll finally come out to my parents and I'll like do it so American, like such like an American way of doing it, which is like I sat them down to a kitchen table and I was like, Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. I don't want to hurt you. And then my mom's like, I already know. Don't worry. I know. It's about your alternative lifestyle, right? And I'm like, are you serious right now? And she's like, yeah, I already know it's your high school, but your father, he doesn't need to know right now. I'll tell him later. I tell him later.
Oh my
How's your
God,
job? Like
same story.
that's how fast she did it. And like,
Wow.
it was such an experience. I mean, I'm so blessed to have a mother that is just so on my side, 100%. Whatever I need, so however she could support me, uh, she's right there for me. And actually, it was, although it did take her a while to tell my father, it took her 7 years. Like 7 years. Can you imagine? I'm like, I told her when I was maybe like
Wow.
23, and then like 7 years later, I'm 30, right?
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, Mom, you told me that you will tell my father, tell him, and they're divorced at the time, so she had to like call him and actually speak in Vietnamese, and I think that's very important that she did it in Vietnamese, and that she had the time to sort of absorb and process and really bring it through. As far as like our son is still this. I mean, well, our son is the same and also does drag, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's been such a crazy experience for me. And actually, my father took it pretty well. He he's a macho man. He's in the Air Force. So he was in Vietnamese Air Force, the South Vietnamese Air Force. So he flew a
Mm.
helicopter. He was a helicopter pilot, and so he was kind of not like super excited, but he just told me later. He's like, as long as you're happy, I just want you to be happy. And
That's
so
really great.
yeah,
So I would say your coming out story is more kind than other people's, perhaps. Would you say?
yeah, I would say I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I'm kind of and I understand that privilege, for sure, because it's not every Vietnamese family that's like mine that will kind of be so supportive. At the same time, I have to have hope that programs like this will expose audiences to queer and trans people and people who identify as gay and not just like, oh, bede over there, that little thing right over, like I have hope that it's something we can do by doing stuff like this, having programs like this, we can move that forward in the queer and trans Southeast Asian community.
That's great. Tell us about Juicy Thoughts.
Yeah,
The
so Juicy Thoughts came about as a drag show because basically I was okay. I wasn't always a drag queen, but I like to think though, like when I was a kid and I was trying on my mom's like high heels. She's a size 4, by the way, because she's a little lady, right? 4'9", and I was like breaking all her heels for her. But I was trying them on, just having fun, enjoying life. That was like the precursors. But maybe I have always been a drag queen. But I when I first started doing drag in law school, I wasn't really this fabulous or anything. But it was because of GAPA, because it became Miss GAPA and that pageant and running for that pageant and then winning the pageant and then representing all of the queer and trans API community in the Bay Area. That's what I felt like I had to live up to it. So I had to like get better and better and try. And I figured out the power of bringing people together around drag, around entertainment, around nightlife. And so when I was like in 2018, 2 years after I was Miss GAPA, it was reigning. I was reigning as Miss Kappa. I was like, 2018. Let's just have a drag show. Let's call it Juicy Thoughts because and I had been performing a lot with the Rice Rockettes. And the Rice Rockettes is one of the premier API drag troupe in San Francisco. They've been around for 10 years now. And they gave me kind of a guest slot every month. They would have me
nice.
at the Lookout Bar. And it was like mostly API show, right? And I loved it so much. But then I was like, well, I want to like kind of mix and mingle with like the other POC community. So the queer and trans people of color. And so I was like, I decided to create a show at the Lookout because I was like, I just want to see more drag in the Castro, like right in the middle of the Castro, still a predominantly cis white male um, area, really. and it's fine. It's what it is. But it's, so to do that, I was like, oh, I'll just create a show. And I happen to know the owner of the Lookout, and I just like, hey, Chris Hastings, help me out here. And he's like, is this really what you want to do, Juicy? I was like, okay, sure, yeah, there you go. And a show was born, and Mocha's been on the show, and so Juicy. As far as Juicy Thots, the name, I decided because like basically on if you go on Facebook and you do hashtag Juicy Thots. By the way, just Facebook, not Twitter. If you go on Twitter, it goes through this like porn thing. I'm just gonna say that.
Thank you for the warning.
Yeah, content warning. But if you go on my Juicy Thoughts, I just was, kind of like when you watch SNL and those, you know, deep thoughts by Hannity or something. Whatever,
Yeah.
So. But then my name is Juicy, so I have Juicy Thoughts, and then I would just have
Yeah.
like, my stream of consciousness. And I have a lot on my mind. It's like I want to build a show around that, but also kind of like represent like people of color. Like a thought it's kind of a slang term. That hoe over there. Thought, be a thought. Yes, Mocha. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Thank
Speaking of our other performers, I actually, I forgot to introduce the other two ladies who are also with us. And that's Tracy Nguyen, who we will be talking with a little bit later. And of course, the fabulous Mocha Fapalatte. I love that name.
Yes. Come on, Mocha Fapalatte. Give it. And thank you, Tracy, for being here too. Love you.
So Juicy Lou, I guess your name, of course, Lucy Lou, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there more to it?
Yeah, actually, so I was, picture it. It was around 2006. I just moved to San Francisco. I was making some friends and everything. I joined a gay softball team, and it was mostly a gay Asian softball team called the Dragons, right? So we would go out, to the bars in the Castro, and like, these little gay Asians, they're kind of small, petite, and here I am, like, I'm juicy, right? I'm big, right? And like, I would be like, when you're up on the dance floor and you're dancing, having fun with your friends, and you're in a circle, but then like some creepers would come up, and they would like want to get up on your friends, and I would like completely block them out the way, because like I have like a wingspan. I don't know if you can see this right here. I got a wingspan. So like, and they're like, oh, look at Michael. He's so protective of us, like Lucy Lou, but juicier, Juicy Lou. And so that's how it came. That's how I got my name.
I see. How sweet. So, can you help the audience, myself? I'm so ignorant when it comes to this type of topic, and I may even say things that are not appropriate. So please correct me anytime.
That's why we're here.
Yes. So why drag? Like, why not just, okay, I'm gay, but why go to that platform or that extreme? Is that because it's an art, right? What, I mean, tell me more.
I found that drag was just something I did for fun to begin with. I swear, like most gay men enter drag on Halloween. A lot of drag queens are born on Halloween. And that's why I'm so happy to have Mocha here. She represents Halloween to me.
Not a Halloween queen. Not a
Halloween queen, but she represents that for me. I don't know why. I just feel very scared. All the time. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But I did become a drag queen on Halloween, and then like kind of entered that, and kind of just felt like the power of just sort of like, one, people looked at me, like I felt seen, like people were like looking like and it's kind of a weird feeling until you do drag as for me as a gay man. I'll speak as a gay man. That for the first time in a long time, people are looking at me really deep, like whoa, and then sort of treating me differently, and it just felt this different power. Fast forward, I told you I was part of a softball team. Softball teams have fundraisers, right? Fundraisers for like equipment and going to tournaments or whatever. So part of these fundraisers would be selling Jello shots, and I figured out that I'm such a better fundraiser as a drag queen than like as Michael, which is Michael's fine. Michael's great, but also I'm using the power of drag to sort of like kind of give myself a boost. Kind of you build a personality. As Juicy, I can become whoever I want Juicy to be, and Juicy is a big character. Juicy is loud. Juicy's huge, right? Like a big hair, big personality.
Have your parents met Juicy? Have your parents met Juicy?
So my mother has. I brought her out when I stepped down as Miss Gappa in 2017 at the Herbst Theater, beautiful theater, 800-seat theater in San Francisco. And I had a whole production number. She saw me dancing and singing live and everything, big hair and everything. And she had never seen me before in drag. In person, she saw pictures, right? She's like, "Oh, that one, like so pretty, But but she also is a mother, like a tiger mom. If you lose more weight, you look better. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
god.
God. Do
Oh
you
my
look like your mom when you were in drag?
no, my mother says that I look like her sister number 8, which is like mine,
Ah,
like
Oh my
Kotam.
goodness.
yeah, yeah, Itam, yeah, and she's like that. My sister number 8, she was so mean. She's so beautiful, but so mean. And so anyway, there's so much stories. But my father has seen pictures of me, but hasn't seen me in drag, full face, not yet. He did like my picture when I posted on Facebook from AIDS Life Cycle Red Dress Day. He liked it, and I was like riding my. That's when you ride your bicycle from San Francisco to LA for charity for the AIDS Life Cycle AIDS Foundation, San Francisco AIDS Foundation, and so I was like so startled when he liked my photo, and I called him later. He's like, "Oh, you saw my picture?" He's like, "Yeah, you look hilarious." And because I had red hair, I had a red bustier, I had everything. It was red, girl.
Oh, fabulous. Now, let me ask you a more difficult question here. So, yes, your parents accepted you, but do they let the world know about your alternate lifestyle, or do they hide
Mm.
it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's kind of different degrees, right? I don't really know. I can't really speak for my father and how much because I don't know what he says about me, to be honest. Um, mm. He just kind of he's a man of very few words, and I feel like a lot of second generation Vietnamese Americans will have the same feeling. Well, fathers. I don't know. Well, I'll speak for myself. I have a interesting relationship with my father. I try to speak. I try to bring out stuff. He doesn't like to talk much. And so I really don't know what he says, but I know he did post my picture when I graduated law school from San Francisco in Hastings Law School. Apparently, my picture was all over the Air Force, the South Vietnamese Air Force like websites. You know how they have their network. They created
Yes.
networking before there was social
Before,
networking.
yes, that's
There was
right.
phone calls and there was like black books.
Yes.
He posted my picture and I feel like all South Vietnamese Americans knew me. They saw my picture. They saw me.
Wow.
So my mother is very proud of me. She's super proud, and she shared all about my life to her family in Vietnam, to my family too in Vietnam, extended family. I have a big family, so it's a lot.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your life there. But I would love to
Yeah.
like
Thank
sit
you.
down with you someday and just, go and get more out of that juicy stuff that's coming out.
Oh yeah, you can
Uh,
hear more about my life on juicythoughts.com, my podcast Juicy Thoughts. I talk with my friend Chad Benjamin Potter, and we just kind of riff all the time. We're having fun, just kind of chatting with a lot of LGBTQ public officials, public figures, and we get more into their lives. So I would love to have more conversations with you, Chami, of course.
That's awesome. So why don't you, I guess, now talk to Tracy? I'm gonna read Tracy's bio so that our audience know who the heck Tracy Nguyen is, and then you can interview her, I guess, right?
Oh sure.
So yeah, so Tracy was born and raised in San Jose, California. Growing up with refugee parents from Vietnam largely defines who she is today. She is a driven community organizer with a creative entrepreneurial spirit. Tracy received a BA in Media Studies and Ethnic Studies from UC Berkeley, which seeded her activist journey. So during the last 10 years in the East Bay, she has worked within the nonprofit sector to uplift the voices and power of refugees, immigrants, workers, women, youth, LGBTQ community, and incarcerated individuals. Oh, it's something in common with you, Tassi. Yeah. So, with her creative passion for visual storytelling, she decided to do it herself. And so, she's a freelancer in videography and graphic facilitation. And now she actually lives in San Jose, trying to combine all her worlds together. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Show us your shirt again. We have to see your shirt.
Oh yeah. Shout out to my partner. I stole it from her closet. Why be racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic when you can just be quiet?
Exactly. Love it.
Ah,
Thank you, Chami, for that beautiful introduction of Tracy. And ciao,
Thank you.
Tracy. How are you?
Hi, Juicy. I'm good. I really loved hearing your story. I never heard it before and actually relate to a lot of it. So it was good to hear, yeah, your coming out story and your
Thank
drag
you.
journey.
Thank you so much. And since we're speaking about coming out stories, can I ask you what how what's your journey been like for coming
Oh,
out?
sure. Okay. So I was born and raised in San Jose, and then, like my bio said, when I was 18, I went to UC Berkeley, and so I kind of stuck around the East Bay community. And I came out in college,
Hmm.
and I was like on this fast track to like the LGBT world. At that time, we were working on marriage equality, so my first job was in a nonprofit fighting for marriage equality. Um, I lived with I like U-hauled with my partner, like moved in with her, and all my friends were gay, all my networks were gay, like so much of the percentage of my life, they call it gay for pay, like
Mm.
I was doing paid gay work. But then I would go home to San Jose every weekend, and my parents would know nothing about me. Like they didn't know where I lived, they didn't know who I was with, they didn't know
Wow.
about my job. But at the same time, I was able to be really close to them because I'm kind of like the breadwinner of the house and the eldest daughter. So like I had this like intimacy with them without them knowing who I was.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think like in my mid 20s, my sister, the ally messenger, she would tell me, "Oh yeah, mom thinks XYZ about you. She was saying that you are hanging out with a bunch of lesbians and you're going to get influenced by them."
Mm.
So like my sister would deliver me all these like messages of what she heard my mom was saying,
Hmm.
and they just felt so inaccurate. It was like my mom like blamed Berkeley for exposing me to this LGBT trendy lifestyle.
Oh, wow.
Um so that was like heavy on me because so much of my life was in the queer community,
Yeah.
but at the same time like my family knew nothing about me. So that same week when I heard all what my mom was thinking, I just like wrote a coming out letter. I just put pen to paper.
Hmm.
I wrote out all my feelings. Um, and like that first draft that I wrote was what I delivered to my mom. So I
Wow.
gave this letter to my friend who's Vietnamese. Like she's like from Vietnam. She was like an international student. So she like translated really well. So
Okay.
this one page English letter became like a 3-page Vietnamese letter because, the
Wow.
nuances of translating, it takes longer to explain
Yeah.
certain terms.
Wow.
Um, I told my mom's like a big Buddhist temple goer. So I
Hmm.
sat her down in temple, like in the kitchen, and while eating vegetarian pho, I passed her this letter, and I like had her read it in front of me in temple.
Oh.
Um, and the letter was a lot about affirming her, right? It was like, "Mom, like this is what you taught me growing up. These are the values that I've inherited from you, like
Hmm.
being community oriented, show up for your family, give back when you can." And I affirmed her for all these things I taught her, and I told her none of this changes because of what gender I like or what gender I'm with.
Mm.
And I had this whole like coming out about, "You were right about my ex. She was abusive." Because my mom had this other moment where she called me out, like, "I don't like that girl. She's not a good
Mm.
friend to you." So like the letter affirmed her. The letter was really centered around my mom and like, "You did all these things right, and this is my true. This is I don't want you to judge me on what gender I end up with, and I hope you know that I'm still going to be the daughter you raised me to be, regardless of my sexuality."
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I think, and then so she read it all in front of me. She like didn't look at me. She held the paper up like this and like
Mm.
didn't give eye contact.
Yeah.
And then when she looked down, um, she was like, "Your mom." She's like, "Maybe, like I
Yeah.
know, like you didn't have to tell me. I knew all this."
Mm.
And she was like, "But don't tell your dad. He's not ready. You'll like, like,
Really? Just like the
yeah,
same. Oh my
the same."
god.
And she also said like some things where that was like, "Oh, you're just not confident that you can get a man."
Ugh.
Like I think there was like denial at the same time.
Mm.
She was like,
Yeah.
"I know, but also this and also that, but I still love you, right?" And she's like,
Hmm.
"It's like Cody, like ball eyes, just like whatever, just that's fine." But then
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I go back to Oakland and I'm just like living my gay Oakland life. And then she texts me 2 weeks later. She says, "I read your letter again. I love you more."
Oh.
Mm,
Oh my gosh. That's so
that's so
beautiful.
Yeah.
sweet. That's
That's
so
And
so
it's
sweet.
gorgeous.
it's it's really sweet. And like it's weird because like we never talk about it. Like that one letter, like once we talk about it once a year, like maybe like the next year I'll bring my partner home for one lunch.
Mm.
And then like the third year, like I bring them home again. Um, but nowadays my current partner comes over like every week. And so it's a
Wow.
journey, right? Like it's an
That's amazing.
evolution.
That's
Yeah, so I
amazing.
also have a nice, I guess, happy story, which is
Hmm.
also I do feel like it's a privilege, but also I feel like
Yeah.
I worked for it, you know? Like
Hmm.
I spent all that time in my activism, like trying to be true to myself, finding the tools to communicate,
Hmm.
and that letter really culminated like my work, my self-work.
Yeah.
And so I think like I really had to deconstruct my shame and my fear before
Mm.
showing up to her at the temple with the letter.
Yeah.
And
Do you feel
so
that like a lot of your coming out journey kind of translated into sort of themes that were present in the film that we're talking about, Sun? Um, is it? I don't know. Is this or did they one influence the other, or it's like how did that come about? Or maybe you could talk about that.
yeah, so Juicy Referring to Sun, which is a movie I produced,
Hmm.
is directed by my good friend Sal Tran. Being a filmmaker, my motto, my kind of like life motto is like my queerness is like what heals the war trauma, because a lot
Hmm.
of what we experience as Vietnamese second gen is like we inherited this trauma, which primarily came from this big war
Yeah.
and the refugee experience. I feel
Hmm.
like my queerness and my art really healed that experience. So being a filmmaker was a way that I translated the feelings of, oppression or like LGBT struggles, like family acceptance. We put it on a film,
Hmm.
as a way to have a different conversation that wasn't like you said the American way. It didn't have to be like coming out. It could be here's a film that you can watch and interpret it in your own way, and maybe
Hmm.
that can speak in a different way than a conversation can, especially with language barriers.
Was that your
Um,
first film, or was it your? Had you done other films, or was curious?
Yeah, I did this training program called Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project, and
Yeah.
we did like a mini school film training. So I did like this cute little romantic Bart movie and some other like documentary films. But
Cool.
Sun the movie, which you all are gonna see a clip of, is like my biggest short film production, in
Awesome.
partnership with my director, my friends. And so yeah, that felt like it was the biggest budget. It was like $20,000 budget. A
Wow.
small film, like a 15-minute film, but it cost like $20,000 the
Yeah.
most.
I think we should show it.
Yeah. Let's show it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's show a clip of it.
Hmm.
Turn my Jagger swagger on, these hoes is on attack. Ain't nobody banging it like K, that's why they calling back. I swear they heard it all before now. That's why they turning up for show now. Yeah.
Next. 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 Hello. Young lady, it's your turn. You can go. Good. Mom.
Yeah, here's the scene. That's the excerpt we wanted to show.
Mom. Con đang kêu mẹ đó hả? Gì vậy? Con là con gái. Quần áo này là của con.
But no, where are my clothes?
Mom gave them to good.
Mẹ đang nói chuyện.
What? What did you?
Con làm gì vậy? Con đang làm gì? Đấy, con làm gì?
This?
Tại sao?
Because, Mom, I'm a queer boy.
Hả?
I'm queer, Mom.
Gì? Con là BD hả?
What? No. Queer. It's like an umbrella
Con,
term
mẹ không
for.
tin con là
Oh,
BD.
no, Mom.
Mẹ
You're not
không có
listening to
gì.
me.
Mẹ không
That's
tin con là
not. No,
BD.
that's
Mẹ không tin con
no,
có vẻ
it's
là
not
như
what
vậy. Mẹ
that's
không
not what
tin.
you
Mẹ
would
không
call
tin
it.
con là BD.
You you listen to me? I'm trying to explain. Mom, man. Mom, you're so fucking stupid.
Con nói đúng. Mẹ không giỏi tiếng Anh như con.
That's not what I
Mẹ
was
không
saying.
có cơ hội đi học như con. Mẹ không làm tròn bổn phận của một người mẹ.
Thanks for showing that clip of Son. Tracy, do you? I mean, that scene is when I first watched that movie, your movie. That scene really hit me hard. Like, how was it like to? I mean, I know you're a producer, but like, you know, you chose this content. What does it mean to you to choose this content for
Yeah.
the world to see?
Yeah, thank you. Shout out to my director, Sal Tran. The scene was written based off a real life moment in their life when they came home and they had a quarrel with their mom and they, yelled at their mom and cussed at them because of the language barrier and just like the internalized hatred. But for me as a producer, like it was really, a lot of people when you see films, you kind of there's a lot of attention on the director, right? But like with it's really important to have a producer that is down for the vision. And so when Sal told me that scene, I knew exactly who to play that scene, right? Like, I think it's really rare to see this kind of scene on television because how do you get a Vietnamese actor to play a very like contentious scene, especially that's around being LGBTQ and in Vietnamese? And so the actress actually is one of the nail salon workers I organized.
Wow.
So when I was an organizer, I worked on nail salon worker rights, and she was one of our workers that she went to Sacramento and lobbied with us, and she was like a big leader in the nail salon community. And so when I started doing this film, we have that trust and relationship, and I was like, hey, Goto, do you want to be an actress? And she's like, okay. She's like very, she's very excited. She loves attention. And then we gave her the script and we're like, this is what you have to say. And it didn't click with her. And then we would coach her through the scenes and we are like, this is what you have to say, like use the word day and all this stuff. And then she's like, oh, yeah, like, what are we, what is this, right? And then like all the acting coaches, all the actors, all the directors were like, we're all LGBT, you know that, right? Go to. And she's like, oh, okay, but like, but like she loved the experience. She loved the experience of acting. She like in a way like we organized her through our filmmaking. We organized her to be an ally through the filmmaking because as she learned her lines and acted on screen, I think it unfolded for her. And the next scene, it wasn't shown, but a minute afterwards, she has a crying scene and she cried so beautifully and naturally, and in the moment she said, I don't know what happened, it all just came to me and it made sense to me, and the crying came naturally. And so it was really cool to like see the relationship between me and her, as someone that was organizing and then move it to like a creative avenue to organize her on a different issue, right? LGBT issues.
Is
and
there a
then
word? Is there a word for queer in Vietnamese?
yeah, đồng tính. Đồng
Is
tính
that like
bên
a?
ai.
Because I know bidet is very like faggot, right? So it's like a bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, đồng tính actually means same sex.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't quite translate to queer either. It really only refers to homosexuality, but not the rest.
Yeah, I think it's kind of. Well, we'll talk about this more, but I do want to like leave one more question to you though. It seems like you've done a great job of melding your activism and your art. If you were given $1 million, what would you do with it? Like,
oh my God, bad question. Well, my vision right now is to like own my own film production. I think there is merging like activism and filmmaking is a big part of my vision. And currently, I'm still doing like nonprofit work and consulting for organizing. And then my filmmaking is kind of like on the side because it doesn't, it's hard to be a starving artist.
Yeah.
So if I had the means of just focusing on a production company where we can continue to produce films like this, we have so many scripts on the docket. Like I have a script about me, my aging dad, and like our relationship right now. Sal has another script about being a twin and being queer. Vivian, my other colleague, has a script about coming out in the church, right? Like the trauma of Christianity. And we're all trying to just hustle our lives and make ends meet, and like our creative visions just get pushed on the pushed to the side. So
Yeah. Well, do you
yeah.
hear that, Chopsticks Alley? I see. I give you a whole bunch of you can get into this art right here. Queer Vietnamese art, queer and trans Vietnamese art right here. I'm just saying, donate now to Sunkiss Productions. Go watch the full film, Sun. It's available. It's like about 15 minutes.
Yep, it's on our
Beautiful.
website. Yeah, it's free streaming right now.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
want to remind our audience that for all of our artists, we have their Venmo account so that you can donate so they can continue to do their art, especially important work like this, right?
Yeah, and we actually have a couple of folks in the channel right now who are sort of like cheering you guys on throughout this evening. Just want to give them a quick shout out to M. Horn, Hella Mers, Pat San Jose. I don't know if you guys recognize any of these names, and our friends out in San Francisco, Crowded Fire, a theater company that I've worked with, and they really help, are an amazing ally to LGBTQ and really great just stories. So they're all here in the channel cheering you guys on. So
Yay!
Thank you.
There are quite a few more too. That we're very excited about that, to have community support and being allies, especially, right? You mentioned the nail salon actress. I also I'm asking, so this is like off script, but recently, like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, the governor mentioned that COVID, the first case in California, I think he said, started at a nail salon. That bugged me so bad. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and the Vietnamese community quickly mobilized to denounce his comment, right? Because we know that anything in public leadership right now that has any sense of like blame is very problematic and very harmful to our communities. Like our president is doing it, and so if our governor is doing it in the state of California, where so much of the Vietnamese community relies on their nail salon businesses, and right now are suffering because they're not able to be open. It's very harmful, and I think it's terrible. And at the same time, our Vit people are going to be resilient. Like I know like shops are closing down, but this is not the first version of a global, like the end of the world for them. They went through war. They've been through like the seas to come to a new country. Like my dad's seen two wars: the French War, the Vietnam War. The re-education camp. Like he was in the military too, like your dad, Juicy, and now he's lived through a pandemic. And so, yeah, it's really disheartening that's happened. But I'm really hopeful about how the Vietnamese community will be resilient through this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your opinion on that. I think we should get to our Miss Mocha Fapalatte. What do you think, Juicy?
Yeah. Do you want to read? Do you want me to read,
Yes,
or you can read?
I can read it.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we would like to introduce the sweet, dark, and guaranteed to keep you up all night. See, that's why we saved her the best for last, because as later as we go, we can get juicier and juicier in our show. Mocha Fapalatte is the mother of the House of Dolls, and that's HAUS of dolls, here to spread her blend of horror, sex, and filth wherever she goes. As the current reigning Miss GAPA as well, but 2019, yeah. She hopes to help lead the community towards sex positivity, self-love, and self-expression. Say hello.
Hi.
Ooh, yes, Mocha.
Yay, Mocha.
Show us your outfit, though. I'm like
Okay,
intrigued with
let
all
me
that.
pull this back a little. We've got a little like holographic skirt going with a
Oh my
harness,
gosh.
lace, more leather, pink fishnets, but we're not
Oh.
going to show you the rest because
Oh.
you know.
Oh my gosh. So there's a
Yeah.
flash show going on too.
Yeah.
This
no,
is Chopsticks Alley After Dark.
Yes, it is.
Welcome. If you didn't know, you're After Dark.
So my house, the House of Dolls, we're pretty much a house of gothic drag queen strippers. So there's usually a lot going on underneath of the outfit.
Yes, if you haven't had the opportunity or the pleasure of watching Mocha perform, you will in a moment after this show. We have a video, but then like live, it's an experience. I love it. And when Trami said, "Oh yeah, bring some people on," the queer, trans, Southeast Asian artists. We want to know not just Vietnamese, but also just Southeast Asia. And I was like, okay, yes, I know a queen. Mocha Fapalatte. I gotta have her. And she said yes. So thank you for being here, Mocha.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Oh my God.
So please share with your audience what's your ethnic background, since you were talking about non-Vietnamese artists.
Yeah, so I am actually Filipino. I am Filipino, Scottish, Irish, and French. Filipino on my dad's side, and that mix of Caucasian on my mom's side. And it's been a journey. My parents divorced when I was really young, so I got to spend my entire childhood and pretty much my entire like growing up bi-coastal, and I got a really good blend of like getting to honor both my Asian heritage and my white heritage.
Got it. And this is, I guess, a tradition now. Do you mind sharing your coming out journey, your coming out stories?
So I have actually had to come out multiple times, and I'm still in the process of coming out. Like, I am trans, I am non-binary, and I'm queer.
And can you explain what does non-binary mean? Sorry.
It means that I exist in between the gender binary. There is a kind of a gray area where male and female kind of don't exist. Like, some days I feel more masculine, some days I feel more feminine, but at large, like, I'm very fluid in between presentation of a binary gender.
Thank you. You know what I find interesting? I'm not sure if you're aware of the older Vietnamese culture, where that I think trans and queer and all that exists obviously in Vietnam, and there are some traditions that actually encourages and honors people who are queer or trans to come and help celebrate certain participate in certain ceremonies, right? So like the worship of Mother Goddess, for example, it's an annual tradition where we worship the Mother Goddess, where these men would dress up as women and they would perform.
Do they look as good as me though?
They try, but unsuccessfully. And it's interesting to me how normally in the Vietnamese culture, what I do find different than the American culture is there's no direct violence against trans and queers. We tend to make fun of trans and queers and use that community as a butt of practical jokes and things like that, but there's no physical violence. And then when needed, we call upon that community to come and perform. So there's an appreciation for that art as well. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, or are you aware of that?
At least in my own experience, I found that like my Asian family is very, very accepting of me. My grandparents actually have seen me in drag many, many times.
Wow.
My aunts actually got to see me crowned as Miss Kappa last year.
Yay.
And I find it kind of interesting though that the Asian culture that I like have been brought up in has been so accepting, and yet I see friends of mine who struggle day in, day out and try to like express themselves and can't. It's like being trans is like being gay, but even worse in the eyes of our parents. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst possible thing that could happen. We're like tolerated, but we're not quite accepted.
Yeah, I think there are some levels. It's kind of strange. Like, how do you decide that? It's almost like racism, right? We have levels of racism within the Asian community.
Yes.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like, I don't know, like being trans is hard enough as is because you have to figure out who you are. And I fought it for a very, very long time. I thought I was a gay man for a very, very long time. I actually came out as gay when I was 16 in high school. And in my early 20s, I was like, this doesn't feel right. Yeah. And then like in my mid 20s, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And now I'm 30 and I've been on hormone therapy for the last 3.5 months. So I'm actually starting my medical transition now already.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Mocha. I mean, you're like right there in the middle of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I get asked this question as a drag queen, like, so do you want to be a woman? And it's not like an offensive question to me. People will ask, you know. And I always say, no, I'm actually a drag queen, and I identify as a cis gay man dressing up in drag. And so when I'm in, you know, so this is the whole where everything gets confusing and people get like, like get on eggshells, like, what do I call you? Juicy, I know you. Juicy, it's her. I mean, it's good. And I told you that my name came from softball. Sorry, it's all about me. But like, but you know, like it's like my pronouns are.
You're supposed to interview Mocha. Okay?
I know. Sorry. So sorry. This is how I'm relating to this, Mocha. And I want to, Mocha.
I see you, girl. I see you.
Thank you. I knew you would.
I'm taking back the show. Okay.
No. But Mocha, so tell me more about your experience, because like that's a very, like you said, you know, you came out as a gay man, like gay teenager in 16, and then in your 20s you started to feel that was
questioning. I really started questioning who I was, and it's because I actually started doing drag when I was 17. I had the pleasure of getting to like play a female role in high school theater, and it just kind of stuck with me. I started to play around with like gender expression because of a heavy metal guitarist from a Japanese metal band that was like famous in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Got really into the aesthetic, and then in my early 20s, came back to it and started dabbling again. And then when I started like doing drag more and more regularly, and then I started doing it professionally, I actually had this one moment where I came home from a gig and looked at myself in the mirror, took off my wig, and I'm just staring there. And I'm like, I start crying because I have to take my makeup off, and because I can't look at myself in the mirror and keep that woman that I see when the makeup comes off.
Yeah. And I think that that's quite the difference for me, because like for me, I'm just like, this is like, and I'm sorry if I'm offending people, because I know people get offended. I offend people all the time, but so please correct me if I've offended you. I'm sorry, but like for me as a drag queen, I'm like kind of happy. Like my experience is when I take off all the drag, I'm like, I de-drag. It's like the happiest feeling ever. I get to be like boy Michael again, and it's like it's this whole thing. Which is that, so for me, and this is how I understand it. That's why I'm like, when people ask me, are you trans? I'm like, no, I'm not, and this is why. And so, but thank you for sharing that, Mocha.
It's exactly that. Like, I am always excited to take the costuming and like the like over the top pieces off. Like taking this wig off is gonna feel real nice because it's real hot in my room right now.
Yeah.
But like,
I have to believe
it's the presentation. It's the way that I perceive myself. Like I feel unstoppable when I'm wearing this battle armor, and that's really the way that I see it. It's like my face is my battle armor, my hair is my armor, and like when I'm fully done up like this, I can go face the world and be strong for the community.
Nice.
So do you dress then as a woman most of your most every day, or how do you do it now?
I'm very fluid in my gender expression, and actually like my day-to-day is very androgynous. I pretty much just wear like black skinny jeans, black baggy tops, like flowy tops, and like I'll wear makeup every day, but like that's about it. Like I kind of exist really in that gray space between gender presentation.
So now with shelter in place, how are you able to perform? Are you performing? Or
yes, I am actually. I actually was in a show last Thursday. My girl Cassie De La Cunt, she is a Bay Area queen as well from New York. She hosts a show called See You Next Time, and she was doing a show of all Florence and the Machine. The clip that you guys are going to see later is actually from that show, and I was able to record like content of me like dancing in the desert and like putting pieces together, and like edited that into a music video, lip syncing to a Florence and the Machine Florence and the Machine song. Oh my God, can't talk. Like a music video, instead of like at a bar, how a queen would like get on stage and lip sync and dance and pantomime to the song like in person.
Yeah.
I've actually found that like the shelter in place drag allows us to be a little bit more like experimental with our drag. One of my drag daughters, she actually has been using a lot of green screen in her performances, and that's not something that you can do in a bar. Like she painted her entire face green and like did a number where like she was like just eyes and lips on like
wow.
Very
amazing.
cool.
Can I ask a serious question though? A really serious question, Mocha. I mean, before we go to the Florence and the Machine song, which I love, by the way, I love that. I just gotta ask a real quick question because like you are our first non-binary Miss Gappa, and so the title Miss Gappa is a binary title, and so how does that feel? How does that feel for you?
As a performer, Mocha Fapalatte is a feminine presentation. This character that I've created, she is hyper feminine. She is really, really like this, like the big eyes, the long hair. Like this is 38 inches.
38 inches.
38 inches, new weave, you know. And like it's always like tits out and like really, really hyper feminine presentation. I don't do a lot of like masculine drag. The drag is like it's theater. And so I won the title as Mocha Fapalatte, the character. It may be like Mocha the person is what's shown through, but the character is what you saw on stage. And the character is that figurehead for Gappa and for Prism that I'm really hoping I'm doing a good job of like leading us into an era of sex positivity and like self-love. Like that's really my goal here.
You're doing great. You're doing great. One more question, sorry. Since you talked about self-care, self-love, like how do you practice self-care?
I have done a lot of redecorating. Like I'm very, very social, and like not being able to go out and be around my friends, being around my family, like it's been really hard. Like so I've just been nesting a lot, and I've been trying to create as much art as possible. My therapist actually got mad at me and was like, girl, you're an artist. Pick up your brushes and start making more art. I don't know why you're not doing this. I know you're going through a breakup, but like get it together, girl.
Hey Mocha,
I
have a quick question for you for the end there. Are we gonna play the Never Let Go one, or is it the Shake It Out later?
Whichever one you guys want. I feel like Never Let Me Go is a little bit more expressive and a little bit more moody. But if you want to end on a high note, Shake It Out it's a little bit more fun.
Okay, there you go.
I vote for Shake It Out.
Okay, we'll do that.
Before we get to that, I think we're gonna play a game. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, we have some time. We have time. Yep.
Great. I just want to be respectful. So on my podcast, Juicy Thots, which you can listen to on Spotify and iTunes and juicythots.com. Yeah, basically we play games. And so one of the games that I want to play, because of our illustrious president, was, I don't know if y'all remember this, he was saying quid pro quo. He was saying quid pro quo this, quid pro quo that. And everybody's like, quid pro quo. There's no quid pro quo. You know what I mean? And so I was like, let's play a game called quid pro quo. And I'll call it, you know, the queer quid pro quo. It's a like, quo. Anyway, so if you didn't know Latin, quid pro quo means this for that. You know, it's not like kind of when you give an exchange and there's, you know, like to Ukraine and all that bull BS. Anyway, sorry. But for this game, for this special version of Juicy Thots Quid Pro Quo, the queer, trans, Southeast Asian version, I will give you a series of words, and you will give me, and we'll just kind of ping pong, and we can go everybody if you want, or just our guests or whatever, whoever wants to play, just popcorn style, pop it out. And so I say, what is the queer, trans, Southeast Asian version of blank? So this for that. You get it?
Oh.
Okay.
Oh my God.
You're gonna get me in trouble.
I feel like I have to
and
mute
I love
myself
it because this
here.
is,
I know.
this is very like improv style. Like just first thing in your head, pop it out. Like just go.
Are there right answers to this?
There's no right answer.
Oh, okay.
Overachieving, Tracy.
Tracy's like, I got you. What's
I'm
the
gonna
right
take
answer?
notes.
Okay, we'll start off an easy one. What's the queer, trans, Southeast Asian version of a mother?
A drag mother. Pause mother.
Yes, I love that, Mocha. Tracy, you have anything?
What's
No.
a drag mother? I gotta ask.
Mother.
Is that when you like adopt someone who's trying to become a drag queen? Or
Exactly right. Exactly.
It's exactly
Mocha.
I want a drag mother. Like I mean, look. I'm wearing feathers. Okay.
I mean, I've been
I think it takes
accused
a
of
little
having
bit
a
more than
very,
feathers.
very loose.
I have like a
Well,
cat
someone
gloves.
should tell her about bio drag.
Oh yeah,
Like-
bio drag.
Actually,
Now they
one
call
of
it
my
AFAB, assigned female at birth, drag
Oh,
queens.
I
But
want to
drag
be
is
No,
drag.
you can totally do drag. Drag is not limited to your assigned gender. Drag is gender performance. So whatever gender you want to present as a drag performer, do it. Just fucking do it. Like own it. If you want to be
Tassie,
like
I-
androgynous and like be just a gray blob, do it.
I think Tassie
You want
has
to be
it in
hyperfem,
him.
do it.
Tassie, I know you have it in you somewhere.
It's in there for sure.
You're
We all have
hiding
it.
it. You're like
We
hiding
Future
all
it.
have-
episode, drag makeover on screen.
Oh my
well,
God.
on
That's so
on my other channel that I my personal channel, I owe my supporters a drag stream and a drunk stream. So I'm like, there's gotta be-
Together.
Okay,
Do
may-
both
may
all
I-
at once.
May I
Here's
call
to that.
upon you guys for advice?
Mocha, between
and-
Mocha
Yes.
and me, for sure.
Thank
We
you.
got you.
Oh, yeah.
We got
You
you.
just
Oh, yeah.
got
I will
adopted.
definitely
I'm
invite-
so
yeah.
down.
And I'll be
Alright.
dancing it up. Don't worry.
Here's another quid pro quo. Here's another quid pro quo. Another one. What's a queer trans Southeast Asian version of a dream job? Tracy, do you have one?
Dream job. A tattoo artist, a filmmaker. What else do we do? Organizer, all the things I've done. Not the tattoo artist, but
A stylist.
Nice.
yeah, stylist, bartender, all the cool hipster things, I guess.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
One more, a couple more. Is that okay?
Yeah, we have time.
Yeah, quid pro quo, and I'm just freebasing. Ooh. Politician, go. What's the politician version?
Oh, who's hot right
That's
now?
Shade.
That is shade.
Queer politician?
That's a case in point.
Oh.
We have no representation.
There is
Oh,
one
no.
guy. There is one guy. What's his name?
Who?
The one
Is he
who's
Southeast
local.
Asian?
He's Asian. Yeah, the one assembly member, or he's I don't know, a senator. I can't remember.
Well,
Look-
there's Evan Lowe,
yes, him.
And he's not.
and he's not Southeast Asian.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And then,
right.
and I love Evan Lowe. There's Sean Kumar. I know all of them. By the way, I did the Victory Fund. I did the Victory Institute training. You know, you might be looking at a future politician right here.
Get it,
Yes.
Juicy.
In Juicy Lou.
Juicy
Don't be
Lou.
Michael.
Juicy
Yes.
Lou.
Yes.
I want to see it on a ballot. Yeah.
Okay? Just kidding. I mean,
Did you see we thrust?
oh,
Oh.
another one. What's
Okay,
another
another
one?
Ooh,
Movie star.
well done, bro.
Movie star.
Movie star. A drag queen.
Oh, what's that
Drag queens are the equivalent of
drag?
movie stars to the
The
queer
really famous Vietnamese drag queen. Oh, come on.
yes, Plastic Tiara.
Yes.
Plastic
Wow.
Tiara.
There's a
and then there's
Laotian one,
Angina,
too.
Filipina.
Wow.
There's a Laotian one who was on.
Jujubee.
There's
Laotian.
Jujubee?
Jujubee, Manila Luzon,
Yes.
Vivian Panay,
So many.
and then not Southeast Asian, but the first winner of Dragula, which is more of like my aesthetic of drag.
Mhm.
She is Chinese Mexican.
Right on.
Wow.
Hey, one of our members said Kansan. I think we were doing the politician. So someone put Kansan. Kansan Chu. He's not gay.
Nor Southeast Asian.
Nor Southeast Asian, but
Yeah, nor Southeast Asian.
but Alex Lee, who's running for that assembly member, just because that's how political I am. I know the person who's running for his seat. Okay. Alex Lee, vote for him because
Oh
he
my
doesn't
gosh.
do anything. If you're in Assembly District 25, which covers Fremont and Milpitas and Santa Clara, there you go.
And this spot was not paid by the politician. I apologize.
Sorry, personal endorsement. Sorry.
Also, the last note, Jujubee was robbed on her season, apparently.
Yes, she was.
She was. That's why I'm so excited. She's on All Stars. What, 4 now? They're 5.
Girl,
4.
I'm so done with Rue. Rue is like, I'm just done. I'm done. That's a whole nother topic for a whole other
story. We had gotten back on Chopsticks Alley to talk more about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't even know what all that is. It's like I'm like so
it's a whole nother
clueless.
world.
Yeah.
I'm done with Rue.
All right, closing thoughts here.
Okay.
This is an closing thought. And I would love to hear from everyone, or if what you can think about how, and this could be your world peace answer too, a pageant answer. So Mocha, I'm saving you for last. Okay. How does the queer, trans, Southeast Asian community move forward in these times? Because I just watched Asian Americans on PBS, which you should watch.
Me too. I watched it. Yeah.
And I was like, "Where's the queers? Where's the queers?" And like,
I was in it. I was in part of it.
You were
in the prison, the one in San Quentin.
Yeah. Oh, the teaching. Yeah.
I had a cameo.
Nice. I was like, I think I might have saw. Well, I gotta go back. I can watch it. But just curious about how do we move this forward? Talk about community organizing. Talk about activism. Talk about like our art as community building. I mean, I'm kind of giving you all the answers, but like, I would like to hear from Tracy. Tracy, you go first.
Yeah. Well, right when shelter in place happened, we launched this virtual gathering called Boang, which is already like a thing we do monthly in person, where we come together and eat food potluck style and practice Vietnamese. And it just happens to be very gay. Like, it's not explicitly LGBT space, but it's very LGBT centered. So we did a virtual series with me and my friend Swai Pham. She's a transgender woman from New York, a very brilliant, wise woman. So we did these virtual ending weeks where we queer and trans folks across the country would call in and we talk about different topics. We had a show about sex workers. We had a show of a trans comedian, Robin Tran. We had a show about deportation, or an episode, a gathering about deportation. We had a gathering about like healing across generations. And so that was cool to take something that we were physically used to into using the virtual world to expand our network. So now we're connected across the country, right? And before we had Bay Area Vic, we had a New York Vic, but then they weren't connected. So now the virtual world is actually helping us access connectivity in a really new, different way. And I think it's like a good time to leverage that.
I also think, so can I go next, Juicy?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. I'm wearing feathers. Okay. I think it's wonderful that that you're expanding. I also think that the non-queer trans organizations need to support and feature the trans queer organizations.
Yes. Agreed.
Right? Because otherwise you just exist in your world and we don't know about it. But we need to all be connected and accept each other for who we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're one fucking human race.
Yes.
One human race.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I agree.
Mocha, do you have a response to my question?
She just did.
Is that it?
That was it.
No,
just
like,
echoing.
I'll say it again. We're one fucking human race. Like, we just need to support each other. We need to do better for each other. And as a queer artist, I'm doing what I can by producing content and putting more content out and making my voice heard and speaking for the people that can't speak, speaking for the people who are too afraid to speak, doing things like this, getting on a live stream to talk to a bunch of people that I don't know. Like, hi, everybody watching me, and probably making, oh my God, that girl's messy. It's true.
That's me. That's my drag. That's my drag, Mocha. I make you look better. Okay?
I mean, you can be more drunk, but I can be more messy.
Wow.
But no, honestly, like the way that the queer Southeast Asian community can move forward is just by being more vocal. Like, stop being quiet just because you don't want to like cause a fuss. That's something that we've learned from trauma. Like, not speaking up against something that's wrong just so that way the status quo can be maintained. That's so hurtful to our community. Everyone has a point of view and every point of view is valid. We just need to fucking say it.
I love that.
That's right. Yes.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you
Well,
for
for
sharing that.
my way of doing things is just do all the things, do everything, and like say yes to a lot of things as much as you can. I said yes to this, Trammy, without really
Thank you.
knowing what this is going to be like, and I think that like a lot of the people in the queer and trans Southeast Asian community and this Southeast Asian community in general, I would say, don't say yes to a lot of things. They like to say no a lot,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because
true.
they have fear, they don't want control over like what it is, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I
sometimes I
almost
feel
said
like
no to this.
exactly.
I'm like,
Who knows?
do I want to be on TV? Oh,
No,
I'm a stripper.
we definitely appreciate you, Juicy, for accepting, and then also for your leadership for inviting, your friends to come on the show. But we should ask Tassi what the last question. We have to have him answer too.
Oh, I mean, a lot of it is just kind of echoing and listening, right? Like that's like super important. And with Tracy, I also work in prison facilities or incarcerated men and women, and often I find the best way to be an ally is talk about it. Like some of the inmates there, at least in that population, are still learning a lot about these new things. So helping them along and talking about it in a way that isn't like pedestalish, but like we're all people. Like that's the choice. That's and being able to amplify those voices and those stories, I always feel is something I personally can do, and hopefully through this medium, this platform, we're also doing it together, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Any last word, Miss Juicy Liu, before we end the show with a wonderful video with Mocha Fapalatte?
Yeah, I would say my last juicy thoughts. That thinking of this, I'm so thankful. I feel gratitude. I know that most content I would say that I consume personally, I don't ever remember every little detail. I won't remember every little thing that was said, but I will remember the feeling that I came away with. And I hope that the feeling that our viewers came away with or come away with, especially with watching Mocha's beautiful video, is just a feeling of joy, a feeling of like, this is not a community that is like so small or like just that over there. It's like, this is you and me, this is our family, and very dream girls. And I just want to say love, like RuPaul says, everybody say love.
Love.
Yes, that is what I want people to feel when you see the queer and trans Southeast Asian community and LGBTQ people as generally. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining Chopsticks Alley After Dark. And will you come back? I'm putting her on the spot. Will you come back?
Oh yeah. I'll book and blast, honey.
All right.
Blast.
Let's do it. And we thank our audience for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.